So we've got what looks like a pretty standard resume here, Fabio Galuppi, but then there's this list of websites. And that's where things get interesting. Like we're talking about mapping out a whole career, a chunk of digital design history, just from these sites.
Yeah, exactly. Each one is like a little time capsule. You can see not just how good Fabio was at design, but what was even possible back then, what the technology could do, what clients were asking for, even how Brazil was doing as a whole. It all plays in.
So we're starting way back in the early 2000s with Intercode. And their big thing was Flash websites. Remember Flash? Everything was moving, bouncing, practically singing at you the second you landed on the page.
It wasn't all just trying to be flashy, though. I mean, some of it definitely was, but Flash let you make websites interactive in a way that just blew people's minds back then. This was still pretty new for the internet, don't forget. And look at some of Intercode's clients. Sucum. They're part of the Globo network that's massive, even outside of Brazil.
If Globo was using Flash, it tells you this wasn't some gimmick. It was serious stuff. And for Fabio, just starting out, what a place to learn those skills. But then he goes to A1.Brazil, and it's all sleek corporate websites. We're talking Camargo Correa, Embraer. Those are big names, totally different vibe.
And this shows how well Fabio could adapt. A corporate site back then, it wasn't about being flashy. It was about building trust, showing you were stable. Plus, think about the technology. Internet speeds weren't what they are now. A Flash animation could take ages to load.
So he's learning to speak different design languages, depending on who he's working for. That's huge, right? For anyone in design, don't get stuck doing just one thing early on.
100%. And look at where this puts Fabio geographically. A1 Brazil is in São Paulo. That's like the design hub of Brazil. So now he's got the skills and he's in the right place. But then he goes to Souza Oliveira. And it's like he's going out of his way to not get pigeonholed. Hospitals, local businesses, even some regional companies.
Like he's saying, I can do it all. Not a bad message to send when you're building a portfolio early in your career, right?
Yeah.
But hold on. Mystic Metals Jewelry. This is for a company in New Jersey. And this is the early 2010s, right?
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting. Fabio is way ahead of the curve here. Remote work existed, but it wasn't common at all. This tells me he had the skills and the confidence to say, look, location doesn't matter. I can deliver.
Okay, pause it right there. Because for anyone listening who's even thinking about freelancing, about working remotely, this is huge EE. What does this tell us about where the whole industry was heading, even back then?
It tells us things were already changing. High-speed internet was becoming more common. Cloud-based tools were popping up. It was really just a matter of time before location wasn't a big deal.
And Fabio was making that choice early. But you need more than just the ability to work remotely, right? You need the skills, the personality to make it work.
Oh, absolutely. You got to be self-motivated, organized, a really good communicator. You're not just designing a website. You're managing people, deadlines, all from a distance.
So he's got this remote thing down. Then he takes on Make Media.
Yeah.
Working with music producers, Rick Bonadio. Totally different scene. What's this say about where Fabio's interests were going?
It shows he was open to new creative stuff, music, video. That all ties into digital design, especially for online marketing, right?
He's not just sticking to one little corner of the design world. He sees how his skills can work across different mediums, which is huge these days, isn't it?
Huge. Being a one-trick pony isn't enough anymore. You got to be adaptable, work on different platforms, different formats. Fabio gets that, even back then.
Okay, but hold on. We got to talk about this next one. Freedom Fog. He wasn't just designing for them. He was the director of marketing. That's a whole other level. What does that do to his digital footprint?
This is where he goes from just doing the work to thinking about the strategy. He's not just worried about how it looks, but how it performs, what results it gets, connecting design to business, basically.
And it's not even just digital, right? His resume mentions designing their logo, packaging, even stuff you'd see in a store for Freedom Fog.
Exactly. That blend of online and offline marketing, it's still so key. He's creating one solid brand experience no matter where you encounter it.
Which, let's be real, even more important now. So many brands all fighting for attention, you got to be consistent.
Totally. Building trust, getting recognized everywhere. Fabio was onto that early on.
So he's got the strategy experience, he's done remote, dipped his toes into music. Then he joined Cyto 7, and he's working with Putzmeister, Sany, even Unilever. These are huge global names.
And this is where all that experience with Mystic Metals, that global company, it pays off. He gets working with international clients, the communication, even cultural differences, all of it.
Not to mention the pressure. These brands have got massive marketing budgets. Their expectations are sky high.
Oh, for sure. He's in the big leagues now. Big projects, deadlines you can set your watch to, people who want results.
But he's also around some of the best in the business, right?
Yeah.
The talent at a place like Sato 7 must have been off the charts.
Absolutely. Top-tier creatives, strategists, account people. It's a pressure cooker, but you learn a ton.
So we've gone from flash animations to global campaigns. Little shops to international brands, quite a ride. But there's one last stop on the Fabio tour. His current gig, AI specialist.
And this is what I love. Shows how much the digital world changes and how important it is to keep learning.
Because who predicted AI would be this big in design? Seriously.
Right. A few years ago it was sci-fi, now it's here, it's real, and it's shaking everything up.
And Fabio, same as always, he's right there,
Yeah.
figuring out how to make this new tech work for him.
Exactly. He's not afraid to learn, to change, to stay ahead of the game.
Which is the lesson right there. For anyone in digital or any field, honestly. World's changing faster than ever. You got to keep learning or get left behind.
No other way to put it. Learning's not optional anymore. It's essential.
So we followed Fabio from those early Flash days all the way to AI. Seen how he adapted, learned, and did more than just survive in this ever-changing digital world. He thrived in it.
Quite a journey. But I'm curious, what is next for him?
That's the million-dollar question, right? We've seen this incredible path, how willing he is to try new tech, to push the creative boundaries.
And how good he is with people, building those connections, doing well in those team settings.
So as we start to wrap this up, let's think about you, our listener, for a second.
Imagine it's 10 years from now. What's your digital footprint going to look like?
What skills will you have picked up? What tough stuff will you have gotten through?
And the big one, what story is your online self going to tell about how your career went?
Like you said before, it's digital archaeology.
Exactly. Every website, every project, it's a layer. And with Fabio, it's clear. The best stories come from people who dig deep, try new stuff, even shake things up a bit.
From Flash to AI, from those corporate sites to music producers. Never stopped experimenting, never stopped learning. And look where he is now.
And that's what I take away from all this. You don't need to have it all figured out on day one. Actually, in the digital world, things are guaranteed to change. So be ready to adapt, learn new skills, might even need to reinvent yourself a few times along the way.
Just like Fabio went from this Flash whiz to working with AI, who knows what's next? What skills will be hot then? What tools will we even be using?
Exciting to think about, and maybe a little scary. But if Fabio's digital footprint shows us anything, it's that those who embrace the changes, they're the ones with the really interesting journeys.
So to everyone listening, as you build your portfolio, as you make your way through the digital world, remember, this isn't just about pixels on a screen. It's about telling your story. Make it a good one.